something wrong with society? Another media casualty? Well, here's a dose of reality in the small town mentality.
Welcome to Small Town Mentality Podcast. I'm your host, Ben. Randy is here.
How's it going?
He's back, ladies and gents, lady and gent. And our guest for today is Timothy Dooner from Freightwaves TV and his show What the Truck, and many other things that he does on the side, like podcast networks and all the things. How's it going?
Well, I liked your intro theme. You have a custom theme just special for this show.
Yes, sir. Yeah, earlier we were talking. I said we've built some relationships over the course of the show, and that is our friends over at Drowned Out that made that for us.
I dig it, man. It was like very 90s sort of sitcom.
Yeah. I love those guys. In fact, I did something with him yesterday. He wanted help to promote a show that they were doing today for donations for a friend that they lost. So yeah, we did like a 13-minute podcast yesterday also on this speed. And that's what Randy was asking about that earlier.
I just didn't know that was going to be the show. We were still
a 13-minute podcast this week. So we can get into some of your background and stuff. I know a little bit about you, but I do like to go into shows not knowing anything about anybody. That's kind of the theme. But we like to, I call it impromptu interviews.
Sure.
But I do know a little bit about you. You did a TEDx and you went through some of your history. I thought was very interesting through depression and alcoholism and how you got your start in podcasting and Freightwaves and all the things. If you want to talk a little bit about that, I'd be down.
Yeah, well, that was cool because we got to film that TEDx you're referring to in October of last year, and we got to do it out of our studio in Freightwaves in Chattanooga. And in that TEDx, I was kind of telling my story of how I got into podcasting, and that started in freight. I have a background in freight, and in 2016, I got fired from a sales job. My wife was 8 months pregnant, so I went into rehab to deal with like a lifelong alcohol and depression problem, and then started podcasting as as a form of therapy, basically. But it took over. It kind of took over my life, and it's become a full-time career. And I was on the indie side for a while. Then I got hired by a company to do some marketing for them and to do their podcast. And then Freightwaves came around, and the CEO over there, Craig Fuller, he said, I want to build the biggest podcasting network in freight. So if you want to come down to Chattanooga, come down to Chattanooga. And I was in Boston at the time. So we moved down here almost exactly 2 years ago. And now we've built the largest podcasting network in freight. And actually the show I do now, What the Truck, it just won an ASBE award, which is not bad either.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. We did not.
You might have to. Did you submit to them? I think you have to submit something to them.
Maybe. We won the ASBE awards.
How did you get into podcasting? You said you've been doing this for 4 years now, right?
Yeah, about 4 years ago. I think I'm coming up on that. We've been renting this space for about 3 now. Why? I don't know. I started listening to podcasts, and I got really into them. I did that for about 2 years, and then I had like a microphone at my house, and I was like, I'm going to try this. So that happened 4 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since.
Beautiful.
And been trying to get other people involved, same as you.
Love to hear.
But yeah, so a background in freight. You just did freight for like sales for freight, or?
No, I originally started in the music industry. I went to art school for music production, and like when I was in college, I wanted to be like a rock star. That's why I went to school. And I was like, well, and I didn't even finish school. Like I'm a college dropout, but I got a job in the music industry doing A&R, which was like a band scout and putting together record labels for this indie label. And it was going really well, but like Napster and peer-to-peer streaming kept getting like bigger and bigger, and record sales kept going down and down. And it was hard to get a raise or make money, and LA was getting more expensive. So I didn't see a long-term future in a career in music. So I decided to move back to Boston, and I took a job out of a brokerage because I was out of work for 3 months. I didn't know what like freight broker was, or like nobody knows what supply chain is if they're not in it, right? Like and if you tell me you work for FedEx, they think you deliver packages, and it's like, no, this is a $20 billion company that has like an air freight division and a land division and all that kind of stuff. But I think like most people in freight, I didn't like wake up thinking I would join a freight company or a brokerage. I accidentally ended up there. And I think because I was an alcoholic, like it gave me enough money to sort of drink and rent an apartment. And like I would drink a lot every day. So when you're hungover all the time, you don't really get that motivated to do other things. And that might be one of the main reasons I anchored in freight for so long, because I wasn't really getting fired. I was able to, get promoted and move between jobs and get that education in the business. But I eventually like really grew to love it and getting really curious about it and really understanding it. So when it came time to do a podcast, it was just pretty natural to talk about what I already knew about, which was freight, which I'd been doing for 15 years up until that point.
Yeah, you've interviewed some pretty cool people I've seen on there, people from FedEx and such, higher ups. And
NASA's like the fun ones. Like I like freight and stuff, but I like the business world, business news and science and technology and all that stuff. So whenever that stuff can kind of cross over, or even if it doesn't, I still try to bring it on the show. And it's funny because like the great thing about podcasting is you always have this sort of this bridge to conversation with people, and you never know how it's going to turn out. But sometimes, like with your theme song, right, you were mentioning, it can turn out really well. And one time I interviewed this guy from NASA. He was their deep space logistics guy, and we really hit it off. And now What the Truck has this pretty good relationship with NASA, so much so that like when we did the first launch here from American soil, they gave us a bunch of footage to use, and they sent some of the people from Kennedy Space Center to come on the show. And then when the Perseverance landed on Mars about 2 weeks ago, we had some NASA people on as well to talk about how that all worked. And like that stuff's like just the nerd in me. That's like a gem.
That's pretty cool. Now I was just thinking about truck driving and NASA, like all the trucks have to carry the pieces to the rockets and all that shit. And I think that's like all government contract. I wonder how you could get into that. Like I want to be a CIA truck driver somehow, something along those lines.
I don't know. Are you going to be like YRC or Yellow when they got bailed out by, the government with the PPP thing?
But you passed the background check?
I've got my TSA already passed.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure for that you'd be a higher clearance.
Maybe. Yeah, probably. I'm just saying I'm halfway there because I haul hazmat, so I already got my TSA and stuff. I'm already above most people that drive in the background aspect anyway.
What extra do you have to do to get to pull hazmat? Because I mean, hazmat, especially for people who don't know, it's more dangerous than pulling your traditional, dry van commodities.
So you're probably asking the wrong guy. I don't really pay attention to all that stuff, but I do know I had to go get a TSA background check, fingerprints, and all that jazz, and then you got to take one hazmat test, which is pretty simple. It's like 20 questions, multiple choice. And then, so my brother just got it, and he doesn't even pull hazmat. So it's that easy if he can do it. And you got to have your tanker and double triples, I think. But I think you have to get double triples anyways. I think that's part of like a standard for your CDL, but I don't know. I guess not for buses, huh? Probably wouldn't need it for bus.
Could be. I'm not really sure.
I know on my license I can legally drive a bus, but
hey, what do you do for a living?
Pretty much this.
Is that true? I podcast full time. Is that what you do?
I wish.
No, I'm just broke.
Oh, okay.
I wish I could podcast full time. That'd be the dream. I want to be an entrepreneur. Speaking of that, you had an entrepreneur podcast, Truckerpreneur is what you called it. I watched a little bit of that, and you had what's his name, Bambino Truck or Calico?
Yeah, Bambino right here, man.
Yeah, that was a funny story.
Yeah. Well, the thing, he doesn't even have a cattle company. Like the Nikola of cattle companies. It's just like it does. He doesn't have, all he's got is a hat, but there's no product. It's so funny because it's all hat, no cattle. Like I think that's one of the slogans.
All hat, no cattle. Yeah. He recently started following me on Twitter as well because I was chatting you up a bit, I think, on some of his posts. But wouldn't mind getting him on here one of these days.
Yeah. Well, do you guys ever like Twitch stream? Do you ever play Truck Driver Simulator? Like, there's a big subculture that is into that game.
I have not. No. We have thought about starting a Twitch. So me and a couple of friends have the worst Call of Duty team you've probably ever seen. And I thought it'd be a funny idea to Twitch stream that. We don't win games often. It's mostly just yelling.
I mean, so here, like the hard part about this stuff, like with podcasting, and they don't tell you this before you start, but I the same with social media is it's like such a wheel, right? It's such a hamster wheel. Like you have to keep pedaling the effing thing all the time, and it's time consuming. So if you want to like Twitch stream and you want to like build any type of following, it takes work, right? It takes a lot of effort, it takes dedication, it's so much time. Yeah,
building an audience and all that. And I think a lot of it from listening to entrepreneurs is building an audience comes down to pretty much content. You got to have that, and then you have to engage. So you have to like actually talk to people and reply to comments and that sort of thing. People enjoy that. So I mean, everything I'm hearing, that's like the bigger part of it. Constant content and constant talking to people, which I don't have time to do that all the time, but try. I mean, if you guys comment on this show, I'll hit you up here and there.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, because here's the thing: whenever you're doing a show, someone's giving you their time, right? That's the transaction. You're giving them content; they're giving you time, and if you don't respect their time, or you don't respect the content, then you're going to lose the audience. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Randy?
What?
You got anything?
Nah, I'm sorry. I'm miles away.
Okay. It's just sitting there. I guess me and Tim here. So speaking of Chattanooga, you mentioned Chattanooga. I lived in Chattanooga for 3 months.
Where about?
I think I'm trying to think. 2009, 2010. I mean, it was right outside. I mean, we were probably 10 miles from inner city. Like we were just kind of up in the woods a little bit, but I mean, everywhere down there is woods. But
yeah, I mean, it's hilly, it's mountains. It's we were like we just got a house and we were house shopping. It's really hard to find like even a flat backyard here because literally everything's on hills. But it's very like tropical rainforest. I think actually I'm not sure how they measure like subtropical rainforest or something, but part of Chattanooga, like right over there, is considered some sort of like subtropical rainforest. And I totally believe it all the effing time here.
I remember driving around a time or two, and it's like you end up in 3 different time zones somehow. If you do like a full circle, Georgia.
2. I mean, you can go to East. Yeah, you can go to East Coast and Central.
Yeah, I just remember like we used to go to yard sales and stuff, and we'd be like do this big circle and come back around. It was like 3 different time zones. I don't know. It was weird.
Well, let's say like during summertime out here, because we're on East Coast time here, but you're so close to Central that the sun doesn't set till like 9 o'clock at night. So when you're trying to put kids to bed, like I have a 4 and a 6-year-old, and they're like, the sun's not asleep. So that becomes a challenge. It takes even more of your time at night to get them down. But I think Chattanooga is awesome. Like I'm like a asshole. I'm from Boston, and I moved back to Boston. Got a lot of Boston pride. But I also knew like the opportunity down here in Chattanooga was great, but I didn't know it from Timbuktu. It could have been Detroit for all I knew. So it was a nice surprise to come down here and see that it's like a lot of parts of it are really beautiful, especially not so beautiful parts. But by the mountain areas, it's really nice, and they've really cleaned up the downtown, and it's very lush, and the Tennessee River is really nice. So it turned out to be a great area, especially with having 2 young kids, because we have like that aquarium here, that zoo. It's good.
They have a lot of Civil War like monuments and lookouts and that sort of thing. We went way up on the mountain to that lookout, and I think they said you can see 7 different states from the top or something. I don't know. Yeah. I don't remember a lot about Chattanooga, but I do remember hanging out there for about 2 months.
It's Rock City, but the thing about like if you ever go there, when you get down to the bottom, did you go in that room with all the day glow like creepy fairy tale things?
Probably.
Okay.
I don't remember. This was 2009, somewhere in that area. But I do remember doing they had a 100-mile yard sale every summer, and I remember hitting one of those up.
You sound like you're really big into yard sales. What is the best?
Yes, I do like yard sales.
What's the best find you've found at a yard sale, other than that car you mentioned today?
One time I picked up an Atari. It was in Chattanooga, actually. We went to this yard sale or junk shop, and I picked up an Atari. and it was like an original. I think it was labeled like 300 or something, and it came with like 35 games, and it was all in this compact case and a bunch of paddles. I paid $25 for it. I sold that on eBay for 300 and something, 350.
Oh, so when you go to these yard sales, is that what you're doing? Are you like picking to flip on eBay?
No, we mostly, me and my wife are very into like refurbishing things, like changing things into something else. They call it upcycling. So you take like a desk and you turn it into a chair or something, you know, change things up. And so most of our house is like yard sale finds, thrift store finds. We just like buy something, paint it, change it away, and use it like decor or that sort of thing. Just 'cause I don't know, it's a fun hobby to do.
No, it's are you into that as well? I mean, because that's my wife does stuff like that as well.
So we're just gonna run past the fact that he just said that you found a car at a yard sale.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into it. I'm trying not to get my hopes up, man.
Get into it. Get into it. Sounds like a good deal.
This might not happen. I mean, this is the long shot. So I wake up this morning, I text my wife, what are you doing? She immediately calls me. She had gone to like an out of business sale. And this guy is pretty much closing shop. So they went there and bought some tools and some shop vacs and things like that. And so she calls me and she goes, we're at this yard sale and it's the guy that owns those Lincolns. And because she knows that I know this place. I've stopped by there probably 20 times to look at these fucking cars. And I was like, I don't know who owns these, but I love them. Well, they found out the owner, and they told him all about me and how that was my dream car for pretty much my whole life. And he says that he's going to talk to his brother. He may, in fact, sell them. And he's like, I'd probably let him go for about $300. A 1969 Lincoln Continental with suicide doors that runs and drives for $300. We'll see what happens. I'm trying not to get my hopes up because that's insane. That is an insane price. Everything about it is insane.
Wait, so what's the holdup with the deal? Like, if you want it, can't you just be like, here's $300?
He said he had to talk to his brother first. That's pretty much the holdup.
All right.
And he's got my friend's phone number, and he said, I'll text you when I find out. And so I'm just sitting and waiting and hoping for the best. But if it doesn't happen, I'm going to try not to lose it over here. But I mean, I can't pass up the dream car. You know what I mean? If it comes down to it.
Let me ask you something though. So when you buy a car like this for $300 and it runs, but you're bound to find like a lot of problems. This is one of those hobbies that low barrier to entry if you want it to be, but it's like guitars or anything else. It can get incredibly expensive the more time and deeper you get into the woods.
Yeah, I'm just barely getting into restoring and fixing up cars. So my grandpa passed away a couple of years ago, and he had this 1974 Super Beetle that was sitting in his garage for 25 years. And so I finally convinced my brother and my sister and my mom. I was like, I really want something to fix up. You guys should let me have it. And everybody finally agreed. So my mom brought it down to me for my birthday in September. And so I've had it sit in my garage since then. And now it's starting to warm up, and it's like I want to get started on it, at least get it running so I can take it to shows and stuff. And then now this one kind of fell in my lap. So I was like, what am I going to do with 2 project cars? This is going to be insane and a lot of money. But yeah. I do love them both because one has a lot of sentimental value and one I've wanted my whole life. So
my father-in-law, he rebuilt an old Triumph, and one thing, if people haven't been inside old cars, like they move, so everything about them is so different than modern cars. Like the steering, the way they handle, the way that they're so boxy. But like even getting inside to the car, like they didn't give an S about safety back then. Like they'd use glass that would shatter and cut your face open. And when you walk in, I was walking the car, I ripped my shirt on the door because even the door has like sharp edges to it. They didn't even like bother rounding shit down back then.
Mike says he only knows where oil goes in a car.
Yeah.
Oh, and the gas. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it too. I'm not trying to be mean or I don't know. I didn't really have a dad growing up. I didn't have anybody to show me how to work on cars. So this is all new to me, and I'm trying to figure it out. And it's going to be a lot of YouTube and asking friends questions. And that's pretty much how I'm getting into this. But
Yeah, my stepdad was a mechanic.
and you don't want anything to do with cars.
He taught me everything he knows. I just didn't learn any of it.
Yeah, yeah. He grew up with a mechanic. Doesn't want anything to do with older cars.
He's never been into cars.
And I did not. And I'm like, I just want to rebuild cars for some reason.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you said you work like 70 hours driving a truck. So how do you manage all these hobbies? Because you're also trying to run a podcast too. You're also upcycling furniture. You're going to all these art sales. You're thinking about how to refurbish cars and watch YouTube videos on how to do it. So how do you manage all that without going crazy?
Well, he just really hates his family. That's all.
Yeah. That's not entirely true. No. No, my son is just as into the cars, and so he asks me almost every day when we're going to get started on the Beetle, and I have to let him down every day because I have no idea how to do that. So I'm like, oh, well, I got to buy parts first, or it's mostly just me not knowing what I'm doing, and it's overwhelming. But he loves going out there and messing with it and pulling things apart, and so my son's right there with me, and my daughter loves doing it too. I put them both to work to clean the whole thing. I give them a rag each and some soapy water, and they clean the whole Beetle. And so they actually enjoy doing stuff like that with me. And then they go to the art sales and everything. So my wife is just as into playing video games and going to the art sales as I am. So most of the stuff we get to do together.
I mean, that's so cool because you were just saying that like you weren't really taught how to do that when you were a kid, but you may have liked to have that happen or that experience. So that must be pretty rewarding to be able to do that, with your kids. And it's a pretty good message too, because it's not like you're some superstar mechanic. You don't know what you're doing. You're learning from the ground up. And that's a good message to drill into someone early on, because like I interview 400 people a year on between What the Truck, the Sirius XM show, I did up until we didn't renew our contract, and FreightWaves Insiders. And I speak to a lot of entrepreneurs and business leaders and founders of companies. And a lot of the founders I talked to, like I was talking to a guy who founded an AI driving company, right? An AI capacity finding company, a freight matching company. That's the word for it. And I was like, well, how did you know how to do the AI for this and that? And he goes, I didn't know. I was like, I just saw a good opportunity, so I thought I would learn. And I was like, okay. Because I think a lot of times, like, they don't teach you that in school. They teach you obedience, right? And they teach you how to do arithmetic, and they teach you all that, but they don't really prepare you for the real world, right? And the startup world or the founder world, and we're all kind of our own personal founders, and we have to build things from the ground up. And you're not really taught that experience, and that everyone really has to go through that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything about podcasting 4 years ago either. So, I still don't really, but we got more microphones.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we went from 2 microphones to 4. So, I'm working on it.
Well, how did you two guys hook up?
So there was a local comedy scene, and I had a couple of different co-hosts. One I got in a fight with, but we're cool. It's fine. The other one, our schedules started conflicting, and then Randy here was around. He did the show a couple of times. He was in the comedy scene, and at the time I needed a co-host, and I was like, "Hey man, you want to come by the show?" And he was down. So he's usually more energetic than this.
Well, I've been moving fucking furniture all day, man. I'm just about wore the hell out, dude. I'm sorry, but yeah, nah, man. It's cheaper, it's cheaper than a movie. Not a bad way to spend a Friday night. Usually free shit to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah. Free bottled water. That's a good deal.
Yeah. Back last year before the pandemic, I was helping these guys find locations to do stand-up comedy, and they were doing an open mic Thursdays and Saturdays, something like that. But one of their places closed down in the pandemic. They haven't been able to get back. You guys been doing open mics again, or is it still not happening?
AJ is still doing comedy shows. He's hosting like touring comedians coming to town.
Oh yeah.
So he's kind of opening for them.
So I've also immersed myself in the comedy community that we have.
You bring up a good point though with the pandemic. Like so much of that scene, not just comedy, like just the open mic scene in comedy, in music, like playing in coffee shops, all that shit, like all that proving ground kind of stuff got wiped off the table for an entire year. It's kind of interesting because those communities, because there's not a ton of money flowing into those kind of things, and it's a slow build, right, to get people to come. And it's kind of depressing to do an open mic when there's just like one person in the audience. So you fight very hard to build up that audience, right? So you have someone to get some of that tactile feedback off of, and it hurts. Like it sucks that like this happened, and I hope that people like rebuild and bring these communities back together.
Yeah, a lot of people have transitioned. They do like Zoom comedy shows and VR comedy shows. VR is huge right now, and I've got a friend that just started doing open mics on what's that app on Apple that's new? Clubhouse. So he started doing open mics on Clubhouse, and he's killing it right now. I mean, he's gone up in competitions and all kinds of stuff. And Randy here recently started transitioning into TikTok, and he's doing pretty well in there also.
Yeah. What kind of TikToks do you do?
Just mostly me being a smart ass.
Yeah, he does a lot of bits.
I spent all day, like an entire day, putting this one together where it's me and a glass of water, and it's like the optimist says it's half empty, the pessimist says it's half full, or vice versa. You know, then it goes off the rails with like dentist, optometrist, racist, you know. It just gets progressively more and more silly. And I spent all day working on that video. That's got like 150 views. I made a joke about having a small dick, and that thing has got like 80,000 views. I'm not even exaggerating.
It's always the ones you don't want that go viral. Right?
Yeah.
It's not that I don't want. It's just I literally did it like 10 minutes before I went to bed. Went to bed, forgot I even made it. And when I woke up the next morning, it's freaking viral.
Yeah, but then you're like, hey, there's small dick guy from TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want that to be the defining moment.
He's like, I work so hard on these bits, and then this is the one that I didn't even do any work for.
I just barely, like I said, barely farted it out like 10 minutes before I went to bed. And
Yeah, I shared one of your TikToks yesterday. I think I thought was funny because you did the bit about pretty much the Mandela effect.
oh yeah,
He's like, I can't even remember what it was now, but the end got me.
just the whole thing where it's like, oh, could it be that I remember this wrong? No, I must be from a parallel dimension.
Yeah, that
Like,
might
I can't be wrong.
Berenstein Bears thing.
Yeah.
And it's like good, and the comments on that one has just turned into a fucking Facebook argument. I'm just like, you know, memory's not reliable.
Well, it's like Transformers, Transformers the movie. It's the Transformers the movie, but like I have watched that movie all my life, and I swear that's like never there until someone pointed it out to me. Oh my God.
We get into the Mandela effect quite a lot on this show, but I thought that was a funny perspective on it. Like, oh, you can't be wrong. I mean, it was obviously the way you remember it, so you must be from a parallel universe. That's like that's people's logic on the Mandela effect.
like the Monopoly guy with the monocle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's Mr. Peanut. You're just getting them confused because they both have top hats.
Oh yeah, maybe that might be it.
You know.
It is funny that their first thought is to go, well, I'm not wrong. It's a parallel universe. It's got to be something happened. The government is training our brains to forget. Like, no, you were just wrong about what you remember as a kid. that's the more logical explanation. But sure, you're from a parallel universe.
We're really bad at cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
You see it all the time on Twitter. I mean, people want to believe what they want to believe, and you know.
Here's an example. The 80s have been big. Yeah, that's right. We're going there again, ladies and gentlemen. We are going back to
Get your bingo cards out.
Get your bingo card out. Randy is bitching about the 80s. But no, there's been a trend where the 80s were in fashion for like the last 10 years. People will not let the fucking 80s die with dignity. And they just had to drag all the crap from the 80s back. And through the last 10 years, I'm like, man, the 80s were shit. Why do people deify the fucking 80s? I was there. I caught the tail end of it. It wasn't all that great. And I'm like, you know, the 90s were so much better.
Well, I'll tell you something.
I love the 90s. When I was growing up in the 90s, that was awesome. The 90s were fucking awesome. And now the 90s are back. And I'm hearing all these songs from the 90s that I've hated for 30 fucking years. And I'm like, oh God, the 90s fucking suck too. Maybe I'm just an asshole.
Yeah,
maybe that's what's happening here.
Well, I mean, with the 80s thing, it's like Star Wars, for example, they sell like toys, but the toys, like the kids are a Trojan horse for the dad to buy the toys to get revenge because like their parents never got them the AT-AT Walker or the Millennium Falcon. Not that I speak from experience, but I have 4- and 6-year-old boys, and I very much like that they're that age, and I enjoy going in the toy aisle with them and getting the Legos. But like they totally market the properties that were there in my childhood in the 80s to us parents now knowing that we'll be more receptive to buying them and indoctrinating our kids into that stuff. But it doesn't always work because then they get into like, I don't know, weird like kid YouTube channels and like PJ Masks and that kind of shit. But I got them into Transformers and like Ninja Turtles and that kind of thing. So
I was always into Star Wars, so I got my kids into that. And then Randy gave me a replica Millennium Falcon, like a Millennium Falcon toy. I don't even know how old it is, but my son has been like, "Can we open that? Can we open that?" No, you can't open it. I'm sorry. I mean, it probably could. It'd be all right. I mean, probably never going to sell it, but at the same time.
Well, packaging was damaged. So.
Yeah. There was a weird mentality in the 80s and 90s where you had to keep things in their package for some reason.
Yeah.
That's going to be worth something someday. Those Beanie Babies, you can't play with those. Like, keep your toys. But now my son's into collectibles. So he's like, can I get a collectible that I can't open? I was like, I guess if you want something that you can't open.
And that's why I've read comics my entire life. I've been into all this miracle back and you'd still get your ass kicked for it, right? Dude, my comics are trashed. I've got maybe the one comic that's in a fucking case that nobody touches, and the rest of them are just read through, fingered through, bent and shit. And
it's more fun.
Like, oh no, you're supposed to collect them. You're supposed to keep them in pristine condition, and you're supposed to keep the toys in the package, and you're supposed to keep everything. Let me tell you something, motherfucker. Decay claims everything. Everything fucking decays. Okay, that's life. Enjoy your goddamn life.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, it's way more fun to play with them than to save them.
Just get right up on the mic so we can do ASMR.
Yeah.
And we can talk about decay. This is heavy metal ASMR.
Have you seen the cost of some like baseball cards? Like baseball trading cards are back. Some of this stuff is selling for like that. Not as much like NFTs kind of stole their thunder because this came out of nowhere. But the baseball card and trading card scene is huge at the moment.
Yeah, Pokemon's still going pretty strong for years and years.
Yeah, there's like gangs. There's counterfeiting gangs. I've been reading about like happening.
Counterfeit Pokemon.
Yeah, it's serious business.
Just can you imagine just sitting in fucking federal prison and that's what you're in that the bootleg Charmanders, man.
That's white collar crime if I ever heard it.
Racketeering Pikachu.
Yeah. But yeah, they are pretty pricey. $5,000-$10,000 some of them.
Or maybe heavy metal ASMR would be more growly. You got your little false vocal cords.
Now I forgot what I was gonna do.
I was going to ask you something because I think that you kind of mentioned it and then we went past it. But did you say that there's VR comedy experiences that are going on?
Whole VR shows, open mics with audiences and people doing stand up.
Yeah.
Wow. Like does it draw pretty big?
I think so. Yeah, they've even got like you can be up on a stage doing it, with a microphone.
Have you guys done this or like watched it?
He's done it. I don't do comedy.
So like, how does it? So it works kind of like you put on the VR goggles and you're at the mic here, and the audience has their VR goggles on too, and
right.
Yeah, interesting. What is it like doing it? Is it weird? Does it feel weird?
It's a little bit weird, mostly because it's really quiet.
Yeah,
everybody's got their mics off because you're no louder than the next person. Everybody's at the same volume, so everybody's got their mics turned off because they don't want to interrupt you. So you don't hear laughter; you just see a bunch of laughter emojis pop up.
You bring up a good point though. There's in this like virtual world, there's a lot missing in that acoustic, in that ambience of actually being in an environment with someone or in some place. And when you don't get that, you kind of get lost in your head a little bit when it's too quiet. Like you're not getting that feedback from the room or your own echo, and it's like,
oh no, I'm way too narcissistic for that. I'm just sitting there thinking they're laughing their asses off. I know that I can't hear them, but I know that's what they're doing.
They love that bit. That's the bit that they loved. Yeah. Oh, you were saying you used to SiriusXM shows.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that about you. I was like, I've done a little bit of research, but I didn't know you guys had a SiriusXM show. I know you said the contract ended, but that's pretty crazy, man. Just having a SiriusXM alone, there's so many years, but
it was all right. I mean, I like podcasting better, and we get much better metrics on our podcast analytics and our statistics, and we own the relationship with our audience. Or with Sirius XM on Road Dog Trucking, it's all right, but like they sell their own ads on there. They don't give you a revenue cut of those ads. We wanted a better time slot. I was on Saturdays, which was kind of suck because I have to work, full time at Freightwaves doing the podcasting thing there. So it was 6 days a week. And I mean, it's fine, but like ever since we've gotten off radio, our podcast stats have gone up 30% too. So it's nice that some of the audience has traveled over. But I spent like that last month we were doing Freightwaves radio, like just really like every single segment would be like an interview with someone at Freightwaves who does podcasts or something promoting it. Yes, there's these things called podcasts and they're free and you don't have to pay for them and there's no commercials and it's great.
You don't have to pay $100 something a year, $160 a year or something.
It's expensive, right? Sirius XM?
Yeah. My truck that I just bought came with like 6 months free. I was like, didn't they, when you bought a new car, wasn't it a year? I could have swore it was a year. So they've even downgraded the free service when you buy a new vehicle. It's now 6 months.
So for the holidays, I drove back to Boston because we didn't want to we had to bring the dog with us and the kids and we didn't want to fly. So we drove from Chattanooga to Boston, which is like 15 hours. And I didn't get to ask for this when we rented a minivan, but the one we got didn't have Bluetooth. All it had was Sirius XM. So I had to listen to that for 15 hours. And like for a paid service, they put a shitload of ads on stuff there.
Sure, yeah.
So many freaking ads, man.
I used to listen to Raw Dog Trucking. Is that what you said? What was it?
Road Dog Trucking.
Road Dog Trucking. Raw Dog is a different channel. That was a comedy channel.
What's that about?
Yeah, that was a comedy channel.
Okay.
I think Bennington was on there.
What would Raw Dog Trucking be like? I mean, what are the tires at the very least? Because I know you're not using rubbers. So
yeah, it's advice for like
riding on rims.
It's advice when you've been in the wrong bedroom. Like, how do you get rid of scabies?
I might start a podcast called Raw Dog Trucking. I don't know what it would be about. What is that? What do they call it? Everybody asks me about all the time. Lot lizards. Maybe something in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the number one question that I get asked after telling people that I'm a truck driver.
Yeah,
is lot lizards. Every time, without fail, within a couple of seconds. You're a truck driver? You ever get any lot lizards? Every single time. No, I do not. No, I've never seen a lot lizard.
I think my first question was, how the hell do you stay awake?
True, it is hard. Yeah, I work graveyards also, so that's fun.
No, that was my funny moment for the day. Was we were in the heading past the Walmart parking lot, and there was a semi, and a hitchhiker was getting out the side of the semi, and it was just this dude with a beard, and I'm like, that's the ugliest damn lot lizard I've ever seen.
Hey man, there's all different flavors for all different people. You never know.
Yeah, Dooner staying away from the lot lizard conversation.
No, well, I mean, what am I going to say about lot lizards? It sounds like a tough life, so I don't really want to like brag.
Right.
Lot lizards. I mean, I don't want to punch down at a bunch of lot lizards.
Do your hustle, man. I mean, they're entrepreneurs technically.
I'm just reading all these comments.
I mean, if you want to get down to brass tacks, they're hustling. They're entrepreneurs. They own their own business. They're sole proprietors. I mean, LLCs.
So what is the weirdest story you've had from trucking then? Like so you haven't encountered any LLs, but what have you encountered?
One time I was headed down I-25 going into Denver, Colorado, and a girl went flying by me, and she was driving with her knees.
Okay, in a car.
In a car.
I thought there was just some random flying woman, like something out of The Exorcist.
She was driving with her knees and using a double breast pump with bottles.
Hey.
Driving with her knees, 80 miles an hour. I was like,
She was giving it some juice, but she was giving it some juice.
Yeah.
Mom's got her hands full. Mom has got her hands full. She's trying to get it done, right?
Yeah. Mostly just see constant people texting. I've seen a couple of trucks, in the wintertime flipped over and stuff. One time, a beer truck hit the side, and like all the beer came out, and it was just all over the road. And I was like, I wonder if I got a couple of cases that they don't mind giving out to people.
So have you seen any like sex acts or anything going on? Because you got that catbird seat. You're looking down. Nothing. Just texting.
Yeah, sadly, no. Sadly, I say. I think they try to get flashing done. I think there's like a date, like June 26th every year is like Flasher Trucker Day, but I've never seen it. There was one girl, a really old lady with her husband, that was like pulling her shirt down, and I did not want to see it, so I looked away. But that was a weird situation because it didn't seem like her husband minded.
Hey.
So,
It just stops the conversation, like everybody's thinking about it.
There's
the comments because Boomer Bob, with his amazing deep voice, said that your mic sounds like you're on your webcam mic and not trying to.
Oh, how does that work?
I don't know.
Have we been doing that the whole time?
No, because mine's going in.
Oh, no, it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. 40 minutes of rough mic.
You sound much smoother now.
Yeah, I bet. Oh, man, that stinks.
Although, you know what? You got some noise in that line.
Yeah, it looks like a.
Yeah. Well, there is some noise. Yeah, I can hear it. I think I need new mic cords.
little bit of a staticky.
So we've been pulling off the laptop mic this whole time.
Yeah,
I don't know how I'm going to fix that audio quality.
yeah, because I can hear myself through this one, but.
Well, yeah, because we were coming through the mixer on the microphones.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And yikes.
Yeah, and I even tested. Me and Dooner got here 15 minutes before, and I was like, let's test mics and stuff. And yeah, anyways.
Hey.
On the plus side, no one heard me fart like halfway through this conversation. So.
Well, at least they could hear you. I mean, that's what it was about, having you on the show. So they could hear all your stuff. Nobody needs to hear us. They've heard us.
Yeah, I mean, what they don't hear, they can't really, incriminate me for. So.
Now, what are you guys into? Like everyone's talking about this, like the Snyder cut of the Justice League, and the first one. So I don't really understand why they would why people would be excited for a 4-hour version of it. But are you guys into that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So what's the allure? Why are people so excited for like a much longer version of that?
See, I don't want to talk about this publicly because I value my safety. The people get crazy about this fucking topic, but let's be real, man. The Justice League movie was a train wreck.
Yeah.
The theater release was a train wreck because they took Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder. I keep saying Dan Snyder. Dan Snyder is the owner of the Washington yeah, now they should just call it the Washington Ballers, by the way. Since everyone's calling them the Washington football team, they're going to change the name. They should call it Washington Ballers, okay? But then again, after what happened in January, I think maybe they should call them the Washington Raiders.
I don't know what happened in January. What happened?
They raided the fucking Capitol, dude.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I see where you were going with that.
But it turned out to be a train wreck because you had these two completely different directors, coming together to get this movie that just ended up being exactly what you would expect from such a endeavor. The Snyder Cut, I was never really fanboy or standing much for the fucking Snyder Cut, but
so this is where I'm lost.
Yeah. But I watched it yesterday, and because our internet is shit, it took me 5 hours to watch a 4-hour movie. Go on Hulu, and it takes you 2 hours to watch 60 minutes.
Takes your mom. That's like the minute rice joke.
Exactly.
Wait, what movie is this?
This is the Snyder Cut of the Justice League.
Oh, Justice League.
Yeah, the Justice League movie.
I don't think I ever watched Justice League.
Well, the Snyder Cut's good. It's broken up into several different parts, so you can, pick it back up whenever you want. You don't have to sit and watch it in one sitting. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was much better than what came out in theaters, and that's about my 2 cents on it. I don't want to just sit here and geek out about how much better they did with Cyborg or.
Well, what about this? If Dan Snyder, so if let's say Dan,
he's doing it now.
Let's say Dan Snyder had to put together.
Zack Snyder. Dan Snyder's the football.
No, if Dan Snyder had to put together the Justice League, what crappy superheroes would be on the Justice League?
Crappy?
Who are the worst DC superheroes? Who are like the 5 lamest superheroes?
There was one superhero. I can't remember if he was Marvel or DC, but he would literally pull his arm off and hit you with it.
Okay, that guy's on the team.
I thought we were talking about crappy people in real life that had to do with football that he would put in that movie. Because if so, I would go with Tom Brady because I hate him. And I know you're from Boston, so you probably do not.
Well, I mean, what he did. I mean, it's hard. You got to respect what he did over in Tampa Bay. I mean,
I don't have to respect anything.
Yeah, no, I mean superheroes.
We can't go one episode without talking about Tom Brady's deflated balls.
Green Lantern kind of sucks, right? Or is there Green Lantern fans that'll get mad? You said there's
the movie sucked.
I honestly didn't mind it.
Yeah.
I went back and watched it a few times with my kids. My son is really into superheroes. And did you slide away from me because I said I didn't mind the Green Lantern? I didn't think it was as bad.
Actually, I actually never saw it. I was just chased away by all the bad reviews and shit. I'm like, I'm not even going to waste my time with it.
I rewatched it recently within the last year, and I didn't think it was too bad.
Plus, everybody knows that Jon Stewart is the better Green Lantern.
Have you rewatched it recently?
I didn't even see the Green Lantern.
What everybody that talks shit on the Green Lantern has never even seen it.
It came out a weird time. It came out before like the big Marvel resurgence of superhero movies, and they got really mainstream, and it kind of landed like a dud. People like there wasn't a ton of superhero hype. It did look kind of stupid. So
I know that Ryan Reynolds can't stand it because it was his flop at being a superhero, and all he's wanted ever since then was a redemption, which he got. I mean, one of the best characters of all time is Deadpool, obviously, but yeah. Going back, like I said, I didn't mind it. I didn't think it was as bad as everybody said. I thought it was a decent movie. I watched it with my kid. I mean, I didn't check out. So,
well, everyone talks shit about like Marvel's Avengers, the video game, and I got it for PS5 yesterday, and I was playing it with my kids. Only the campaign mode. Like, I don't know how online multiplayer and stuff is, but like the first 2 hours that's so far, it's like a slightly less good SpiderMan. Like, I don't know if you guys are gamers at all, but I didn't think it was that bad. But maybe once you finish the campaign, it's not good.
Slightly less good Spider-Man, Daddy Longlegs Man.
Something like that.
Arachnid guy.
That was a good one. I like that. You should start a TikTok series on Arachnid guy.
Which is off-brand superheroes in general.
Yeah. I like Arachnid guy.
And I did the socially awkward Superman where it was like, oh, Superman, you saved my life. Thank you. And Superman's like, yeah, you too. No, fuck, shit.
Well, isn't Bizarro kind of like off-brand Superman?
Eight-legged dude.
Isn't that like Hancock? Wasn't he off-brand? Because he could do all the Superman stuff, right? Oh, man, I'm going to get hate. Oh, never mind. Sorry, PC culture. I was just in superheroes. I just thought that he did a lot of the same powers as Superman.
Okay.
I'm trying to stay off of the radar here.
Okay.
Let's not bring Hancock into this.
I'm just trying to remember what Hancock's power was. I mean,
he was everything.
Super strong and
he was
could fly,
everything.
but I'm trying to remember if he had any of the.
Oh, I think he. No, I don't remember. Could he do the eyes thing?
Yeah, I couldn't remember if he had the.
I enjoyed it. I love Will Smith.
Heat vision or the ice breath or any of that.
Maybe I thought he could do a lot of stuff. And I watched this one off-brand superhero. I can't remember the name of it. It was like American Man or something. And it was just like one of those shows that somebody made. What are those called? When they're not done by like a studio.
So
indie film. That's what I was looking for. It was like an indie film called like American Man. And I watched that and I was like, huh, it's all right. But he would probably be in the new Justice League.
There's a little radio skit that I used to listen to called Man Man. He was a guy who got bit by a radioactive bodybuilder.
How was he ready? I don't know. It's fine. Did it fall into a pool of? It's fine. I don't need to know the backstory.
I don't know if we're gonna get on the Superman thing though, man. I've really been enjoying the Superman and Lois show. New episode just came out that I haven't seen yet, so with my luck, I'll probably say that here and then go home, and this episode will just suck. The whole thing will just come down, crashing down. Everybody's
been on that. What's that show with the red guy?
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Or are you talking about WandaVision?
WandaVision. That's the one that everybody's been on. People have been freaking out about that one.
It ended. It's weird. It's like it starts interesting because it's like each episode is this tribute to like the 50s and then the 60s, 70s, and 80s era and the 90s era of television. But once it kind of gets out of that, I don't know. It gets a little trippy. I wasn't sure what was going on that last episode.
Well, yeah, I enjoyed it, but they trolled the shit out of us. I'd get in spoiler territory if I explain it, but
I would say it's worth watching, right? Like I would recommend it. I don't know if it's like I'm as hype as some of like the community is about it, but I thought it was pretty good. And you know what was cool about it too? My wife doesn't like superhero movies at all, and it was like something I could watch with her because she actually got into it.
Yeah, that's true. I told Emily in the comments saying I told her not to watch it. First 2 episodes came out. I watched the first 2 episodes. I'm like, don't even bother with this corny ass shit, man. I don't even know what they're doing. I'm sure it's leading to something, but I'm not sitting through the fucking Leave It to Beaver shit to get to it. Episode 3 and 4, I'm like, you've got to watch this shit. You got to stop. What are you doing? Stop doing that. Let's watch this thing right now. For no other reason than I need to talk about it with somebody.
Have you seen The Boys? I watched both of those. I was really into that.
I mean, one of the funniest things on that was just like the opening scene of the pilot episode when like the Flash runs through a person and the person just explodes everywhere.
Yeah, and it's like during this sweet moment, they're like holding hands, and then he's just like still holding her hands.
Like he got hit by it.
Yeah. But if you're familiar with Garth Ennis's work at all, you're just sitting there like, yeah, that's pretty tame by his standards, actually. Sitting there eating popcorn.
Anyways, I want to get into you a little bit more instead of talking Star Wars and stuff like we always do, or superheroes, because that's just kind of what we do. By the way, Tony Hawk, we're just moving on from that.
But just touching on The Boys again, because that's another one. I was the exact same way as I was with WandaVision, man. I was not going to watch it. I'm like, I did the Garth Ennis thing when I was in high school, okay? I'm not an edgy teenager anymore. I don't know what The Boys is about, but, fuck it. I'm not getting into it. People kept making all these memes and references, and I'm like, okay, I need to watch at least the first season so I can get these references. And this was right at about the same time the second season came out, and by then I'm just fucking hooked. And I'm like,
yeah, it's a good show. But I was going to talk to you more about you because that's why you're here. You started a podcast network for yourself, you were saying.
No, it's for Freightwaves. We have largest freight podcast network. We have about 14 podcasts on there now. We're doing a couple million downloads a year between all the shows within the network. So it's been pretty good, especially when you think of something niche like freight podcasting. But, on the Apple Business News podcast, we've got several charting over there, and it's been good. I mean, it's such a different, like when I first started out podcasting in freight, there were not any big freight. There were like really small niche ones that had like a couple listeners and like they sounded like webinars. So it's been really cool to grow this from this like indie thing with a $30 microphone into an entire division at a company like Freightwaves. So it's been really cool for podcasting, and I think it shows that you can build up these niche networks out of other things. Like there's niches like wrestling and superheroes and video games and all that kind of, which aren't really niches. They're huge like mainstream things. But there's tons of podcast communities around those things. And I think it's cool, like rising tide lifts all boats. If you can build this stuff in other industries and around other interests, it's good to show that that's viable. I think it's cool. I think it creates opportunities for other people. And I'm very passionate about podcasting and podcasting as a medium. So it's great to see it grow.
Since I am technically a truck driver and in the freight industry, could we be on your network? Look at his face.
No, so like the network is like freight, like for people who work for Freightwaves who make shows.
Okay. So I'd have to work for Freightwaves. What can I do? Do you guys have like somebody that posts on Instagram sometimes? Could I be that guy?
Well, I mean, we could use some social media help somehow. In my opinion, you can never have enough good social media people.
I do all right on there. I like that. That's something I enjoy doing anyways. But I just thought that was funny. I mean, I've thought about niching down a bit, but it kind of limits the things you can do. Like I said, all the from here to here, different spectrums of guests and the things we can talk about, even though we talk about a lot of the same things like superheroes and the 90s. But I like having the wide range so I could talk to almost anybody. I feel like niching down kind of limits your guests in a way. I kind of disagree with that because like What the Truck, we put 4 guests on an episode, right? Yeah.
So maybe that's why I can get away with it. But so like there'll always be someone that's hard freight that's on there, right? Like they're CEO of some freight company or in some position that can speak to the freight market. But aside from that, like I just had Heather Zuma on today. She's an author. She wrote a book about culture in the office guide for men, right? Because like there's always guides where like women should act in office, but it's like sort of how men are supposed to behave in this culture. Having NASA on, having all these different the Morning Brew, I had the guys from there on. So I think you could expand outwards because your listeners have a lot of. I mean, I know what you're saying about the niche thing, but I think there's ways around that conduit.
Yeah, well, I wasn't talking about you in general. It was a generalization of niching.
Sure.
I wasn't singling you out.
No. What I'm saying is that it's possible. I wasn't saying that you were singling me out. What I'm saying is that I think that if you do niche down, you can still branch out.
I guess so. What would our niche be? What would be our one thing? 90s?
Dick jokes.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Probably. I mean,
we don't. I mean, we just talk about all kinds of things. Like I said, we have so many people on. It's just insane. From like I said, music to just a friend from town to entrepreneurs to comedians, like we're all over the map over here. But like I said, it's people that I find interesting. I take interest in them, and I say, hey, I want to get to know you more. Come on my show. Pretty much, I like you. That's how I found you.
Yeah, the idea I had for a spin-off podcast, which I guess will probably never come to fruition at this point, was just taking different news stories and finding the weirdest and dumbest and craziest different news stories we can and just clowning on them for about an hour.
Yeah, I mean, the riches are in the niches, so they say. We could be the number one podcast in something, probably not, but that's the idea. Because there's a lot of people that are so broad like we are, but the people that are in short niches get those people looking for that specific thing, kind of deal.
Sure. I mean, well, like the Freycast Network, like there's super like narrow niche stuff. Like people are into like freight stocks. We have shows addressing that. We have shows addressing the oil market, where What the Truck is broad for the niche, I guess. I would say. Yeah.
I find your show interesting. I've checked out a few episodes of stuff. I really enjoyed it. Speaking of, because we're winding down. You guys should definitely check out his show. It's on YouTube, right?
No, it's a podcast. On podcast players everywhere. You look up What the Truck. See, I'm a podcast purist. We're on video, but I'm a podcast purist.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's where I found you on YouTube. Yeah. Anyways.
So we're usually we're live Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays at noon Eastern time on FreightWaves Facebook, FreightWaves LinkedIn. They do upload it to YouTube. We also do it through the FreightWaves TV app and tv.freightwaves.com and all that kind of stuff.
Well, how would you feel about doing multiple shows a week? I've heard a lot of podcasts that do that 2 or 3 days a week.
Would it be a different show depending on what day of the week it is? Would it be a different show or would it just be the same concept?
Same concept, probably.
Okay.
I just wouldn't have time to do it.
Oh, no, because I was thinking I know a lot of people that we would have had on as guests that just can't do Fridays. Yeah,
that's what I was telling. I think that you should. You've come up with different concepts of. Sorry, this is going to be like way inside. You keep coming up with different concepts of shows, and I was like, why don't you just come in on a Wednesday, release it on the same. What's it called? RSS feed. Just a spin off of Small Town Mentality podcast. You could just do that.
No, because I work 70 hours a week.
You do?
Yeah.
What do you?
Nothing. And I'm going to go back to doing nothing because it wasn't finished.
My bad. I apologize.
No, because I have weapons grade ADHD. So I'll have all these great ideas and then I'll write them down. And then
do one of those ideas every week. Just change it up. Throw it on the RSS feed. It'll be Randy Wednesday for Small Town Mentality podcast.
Okay.
He's not down. So anyways, where can people find you?
Look up What the Truck wherever you listen to podcasts, or look up Freycast if you want every FreightWaves podcast, or Freightwaves Insider is another show. I do 4 shows a week, and every morning I do like a 1-minute long podcast too. For news headlines, you can find me on Twitter at Timothy Dooner, where my weapons grade ADD is also launched multiple times a day.
Randy.
Randy Garner Humor on Instagram, Rando Garner Humor on TikTok, and yes, I am aware that it spells Randog. At Restless Native on Twitter, and Football Bat on BandLab. What was that?
I think Tim's got a soundboard over there.
Okay. Yeah, Football Bat, _bat on BandLab. So I started putting music out.
You guys know where to find me at Never Been Funny with 1 E everywhere. DramaCityProductions.com. Check out all the shows on the network. Shout out to the sponsors that we didn't get to. Spunk Lube, go to spunklube.com. Use promo code STMPod to check out. Save yourself 10%. Ball wash. Clean those balls off. Ballwash.com. Use promo code STMPod to check out. Save yourself 15% on your order. And us, we are everywhere at STMPod. On all things social media. Yeah, I think that's it, man. I think we did it. Provide me with booze and anxiety, and I'll podcast for you. So look, Emily will come in with you on Wednesdays. I'll podcast for you.
Thanks for helping, dear.
Yeah, we. I guess we can. Wind down or whatever. But
I just can't commit to anything just yet because I'm literally trying to enroll in school. So I don't know what my schedule is. I literally don't know what my schedule is going to be like in the near future.
Oh, shit. Real quick. Song of the week this week goes to the Dead Daisies and their song Holy Ground. So stick around after the show and check that out. That's a Curtain Call Records joint. CurtainCallRecords.com. Check them out. One of the best record labels in the game who hooks us up constantly with songs to play and people to interview. So give them check them out on all the things out there in the world. Yeah. So let's get the fuck out of here.
Cool, man.
What's your TikTok? My TikTok is at Never Been Funny with 1 E. I don't know if she was talking to me or you.
And well, she should know mine is Rando Garner Humor.
This is how professional we are, Dooner, by the way. This is how we end shows. This is how we start shows. With using the laptop microphone and then switching mid-show and then having a buzz throughout.
Happens to the best of us, man.
I'm going to go have an existential crisis now.
Yeah. To everybody that watched, we love and appreciate you.
Absolutely.
To everybody's going to watch in the future, we also love and appreciate you. Shout out to Timothy Dooner. Check him out. Thanks for coming on the show this week. We appreciate you. Check out What the Truck. Check out that merch that he's got on. I'm going to buy me one of them shirts. They're pretty sweet. All right. And with that, until next week, go fuck yourselves.
Existential crisis.
Whoa.
What?